Personal finance practice problem using Excel. Unit price calculation. Prepare to get financially fit by practicing personal finance. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. If you have access to the Excel worksheet, would like to follow along, note that we're down here in the practice tab as opposed to the example tab. The example tab, in essence, being an answer key. Information's on the left-hand side. We're going to populate that into the blue area on the right-hand side, looking at our unit price, looking to break down things that we might be purchasing into the unit price so that we can make comparisons between different options, which might have different quantities that would be involved. The unit price being something that we can often then compare more easily, making a more accurate comparison. So we'll start with the motor oil. So we'll say motor oil, and we'll say it's in quarts. So it's in quarts. We got to say the unit then is in quarts, and they're giving us the price of the $1.95. So then we can calculate the unit price, which would be the price per quart if we were to then make comparisons with other types of brands for the motor oil. So then, of course, that would simply be, we'll take the price and say, all right, that's going to be equal to the 195. Let's add some decimals here. Number group, add a couple decimals. Now, this is actually becoming easier and easier when you can look up prices basically online and possibly at least plan for the shopping when you go shopping, and then possibly have a better idea of different options that would be available before going in. Otherwise, of course, it's kind of tedious to be in the store with your calculator looking at different basically items on the shelf. So this is something that possibly more and more you could do basically before going in, or even shopping online. It might be a little bit easier to do some of these calculations in that way, possibly having the help of something like Excel, or of course a calculator and a pen, paper and pencil to write the stuff down. So anyway, we got the quarts. We're going to say the quarts are going to be 2 on the quarts. Well, let's underline that. We're going to go to the font group and underline, and that's going to give us the unit price, or the price per quart, which would be equal to the $1.95 divided by 2, adding some decimals. We got about, number group, about 98 cents. So then we can go over here, and you could, of course, be more, make it more accurate, because depending on what we're measuring, like hay pennies or something more than cents, might be something that could be comparable or make a difference depending on the units we're using. So let's take a look at the cereal now. We'll take a look at the cereal here. So that's going to be in ounces. So of course we could say, all right, let's break that then down to the ounces, or the unit price per ounce. So we're going to say, all right, the price here, say that equals the price is going to be 335. And then we'll go back up top and we'll say number group, adding a couple decimals. And then we're going to say the ounces that are going to be, how many ounces? 15 ounces, we'll say. 15 on the ounces. We're going to then go to the home tab, font group, and underline. That's because they put mostly air in those cereal boxes, I've noticed. They think they're being sneaky, but I see that thing is full of air and not cereal. You could have put way more cereal. Okay, well then we're going to say this is going to be equal to the 3.35 divided by 15. And then we're going to add some decimals, number group, adding a couple decimals. So we're at about the 22 cents per unit on the cereal. Let's look at the fruit. So we're going to say the fruit is in ounces as well. So we got another item in ounces. So we're going to say, all right, the fruit, we'll say, is the price is $1.05, 1.05. Adding some decimals, number group, decimalize, 1.05 on the ounces. We'll pick up the ounces, which are going to be 13 ounces. Underlining that, font group and underline. And then we're going to get the unit price per ounce, which is going to be equal to the 1.05 divided by the 13, adding some decimals by going to the number group, couple decimals. We're at the 0.08. You might bring it further out in something such as this to make further detailed comparisons. And then we'll do that on the tissues as well. Now, the tissues will actually bring out to the cost per 100 units, because we'll get to a very low unit price. So if we have something like tissues, and we're saying, all right, well they say they have 300 tissues, but they only cost $3.85. So that's going to be like a lot of tissues. So we're going to say, all right, well, the price then, let's say price per tissue, we'll say, The price is going to be the 3.85, adding some decimals, number group, adding some decimals, 3.85. And then the tissues, they say we're going to give you 300 tissues. 300 tissues equals 300. That should last me a long time. I don't use a lot of tissues. We're going to go home tab, font group, underline, and then that's going to give us the unit price. And this is going to be equal to the 3.85 divided by the 300. And that's going to give us a very small number. So, less than a penny. So once again, to make the comparisons between different brands or something like that, we'd have to have a pretty small number. And we might say, well, maybe I should multiply that times, let's say 100 tissues. And we can add the price per 100 tissues, which might be more comparable. So then we can say, let's just multiply that times 100, font group, and underline. And that would give us the cost, not per tissue, but per 100 units, or tissues being the units that we're talking in. So we're going to say this equals the 0.01283 times 100. So then we can add some decimals, number group, couple decimals. We're talking $1.28 per 100 tissues, which could, again, this could be a technique to add some more units to it. So obviously, breaking the items down, if you have the time to break the items down and comparing different brands, or different options to buy larger quantities or smaller quantities, Costco quantities versus other quantities, or large wholesale versus smaller quantities, and so on, you'll find. I remember a Simpsons episode where she was saying, that's a great price for 12 pounds of nutmeg or something like that, right? So you can go overboard on that, obviously. But in any case, it could be a useful tool.